Let's begin this series by talking about greed. Greed is the overwhelming desire to obtain wealth or material goods to the point where you're willing to sacrifice your morals and your relationships in order to obtain what you desire. Our first example of this is Governor John Ratcliffe from Pocahontas. Ratcliffe puts together a voyage to set out for the New World, not because of his aspirations as an explorer, but because he hopes to find lots of gold that he can take back with him to England. Through that wealth, he hopes to gain power and prestige back home. During his song, he sings about using the gold so that his rivals are jealous of him, the ladies of court fawn over him, and the king grants him a high position. He also displays an attitude of believing the gold is already owed to him and simply his for the taking. As the movie goes on, he faces many obstacles. None of the men find gold after digging for several days. He faces conflict with the natives, mostly of his own creation, and his most capable man becomes an opponent and is eventually captured. This leads to him believing the Indians had taken his gold, so he marches his men out to face them in battle, all because he wants the gold for himself. The other example I'd like to use for greed is Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. She comes to the home of her old classmate for the sole purpose of purchasing the Dalmatian puppies so she can make a new fur coat from their skins. She quickly becomes upset because the puppies haven't even been born yet, and later becomes angry when they refuse to let her purchase them at all. This, in turn, leads to her hiring criminals to steal the puppies so she can have them anyways, even though it means betraying her old classmate. In these examples, we see that greed can come from a number of places. In Ratcliffe's example, we see it coming from a desire for power and prestige. He's less concerned with the gold itself and is obsessed with what he can use that gold to acquire. Up to that point in the movie, he had been ridiculed and belittled by his peers, who described him as a pathetic social climber who's failed at everything he's tried. He desperately wants to prove them wrong and sees the gold as the means he needs to do so. Rather than examining his own shortcomings and working to fix them, he doubles down in his already failing efforts. Cruella's motivations are just as sad. The first words out of her mouth in the movie is about how she's miserable, just as she always is, despite the fact that she's, as Anita points out, wearing a new fur coat. She even goes on to explain how she lives for furs. Her whole life and identity is wrapped up in what she wears. So she must acquire newer and better fur coats to make herself better and to fend off the sadness and emptiness she attributes to the condition of her life. As long as she has a new extravagant coat, she doesn't have to think about how miserable she is. Therefore, for the sake of her happiness, she deserves to have those puppies for a new coat. After all, Anita is clearly happy with her life. Doesn't she, as the greatly successful Cruella, also deserve that happiness? In both of these examples, we see that greed is always rooted in the belief that the thing you desire is somehow rightfully yours to begin with. Ratcliffe had a right to the gold because he deserved recognition for his hard work. Cruella had a right to those puppies because she deserved the same kind of happiness as Anita. The truth is, however, that neither the gold nor the Dalmatian fur coat would have met the desire that they longed to fulfill. No amount of money or material possessions can grant a person security or happiness. This is why the most effective counter to greed is thankfulness. Instead of deceiving yourself into believing that you deserve what you don't have, you should instead adopt an attitude of being thankful for what you already have, through the recognition that everything you have is a gift that you never deserved in the first place. If you're interested in talking to me more about this subject, or if you have a question you'd like to ask me, I encourage you to contact me either through this program's Facebook page or by emailing me at sermoninthepocket@gmail.com. And for those who are interested in helping me cover the cost of this program, the best way to do that is by pledging a monthly support on my Patreon page. And I encourage all of you to share this program with family and friends and on social media to help spread the message. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen, and I pray that you have a wonderful day.